This is episode 30, the big 3-0.
What? Ba-ba-ba-bow.
Today, Ethan and I are going to discuss then versus now. We've been on the path to start our own businesses and quit the rat race.
Yeah.
And
Get out of that.
We've learned from our experiences. Today, we want to share a little bit about what we're working on, any updates we have, and how our mindset may have changed from a couple years ago. So I'll let Ethan lead off. This was actually his idea for our topic today.
Throw me under the bus. How dare you?
That way, if this episode is bad, I can blame it on you.
Well, now I'm going to edit it to make you sound bad. I am the editor. I can make you sound however I want to.
Yeah, you do have kind of all of the power.
I have all the power here.
You have kind of all of the power for that.
So you be careful, Matt. You be careful.
Is that a threat?
Yeah, it's definitely a threat. It's 100% a threat. Was that not clear?
You're not very threatening, though.
Yeah, I'm not very threatening. Okay. Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, when I'm reflecting kind of to the past to today, I'm thinking of like when I started with like Blue Haven Music and where I'm at now. Not necessarily when we started with the podcast, although that is also different. I think overall, like, well, I'm still not making much money. I made a little bit of money, so in that respect, it's not that different. But I think I've gotten a lot better as a mixer and producer and songwriter.
I agree.
I've generated a lot more songs. I've learned some new like tips and tricks. But kind of like what Matt alluded to, I started doing, I have more education. I'm doing like one-on-one stuff with a music production coach. I've done one-on-one stuff with a music licensing educator. I've tackled it in a lot of different ways. I think I'm spending more money on like investing in me. So like, I think that has helped out a lot. But I think ultimately kind of what you were alluding to, Matt, is like probably the biggest shift is mindset related for me. I think I'm in a very different space than where I started. I think for a while I like back when I started, there was a lot of doubt, like, do I have what it takes? Do I have what it takes? Do I have what it takes over and over again, right? Like, and just a lot of self-doubt. Because like music, I mean, Luthery too, probably. Like, it's hard to get into. It's at least for music, like it's pretty competitive, and the internet is already way saturated with things demanding for people's attention. So like getting seen, and I think at the time, like it's kind of overwhelming to be like, oh, I have all this stuff that I need to somehow get better at, and I don't even know if I'm capable of getting better at it. And I think that's like kind of where my mindset was like way back when, but like it's a lot different now. I think while I'm still not making money yet, I have more of a attitude of like self-belief now, and that it's about like, it's not a matter of like if, it's a matter of like when type of thing for me. Because like, yeah, like by believing and by persisting, I have gotten better over time. And now like I have more evidence for myself that like I can do it because I've gotten better, right? And I like my songs more, and I've gotten more traction on social media than I've had before. So like it's progress. And so I think like my mindset has shifted to one that's more, it sounds cheesy, but I don't know how else to say it, like believing in myself, right? Regardless of whether other people do, and regardless of whether I'm at my goal or not yet, which I'm not. I'm not at my
Mhm.
goal. Um, but I think that's been, I think sticking with it and choosing to kind of like be like, yep, I know this is something I can do if I keep putting the work in. If I keep practicing, if I keep making progress, I know this is something I can do. I think that's been a very important shift for me. Um, it's also made me like way less worried about sharing my music. Um, because I view it as more of a, instead of viewing it as the end, like, oh, this piece of music, if somebody doesn't like it, it means I'm a bad artist. I look at it as a stepping stone, right? Like, this is one more step and one more step. It doesn't have to be amazing. It just has to be, it just has to be progress. It has to be a step in the right direction. And so I've just been kind of viewing things more that way. Um, I think like the biggest mindset shift, the mindset shift has come from doing those reps, practicing and practicing and releasing music and releasing music. I think that's built confidence over time and has kind of shifted my mindset on all of that. But I also think um, I read a lot of self help books and I listen to a self help podcast. And it's not even about music at all, right? Like these self-help books are about completely different topics, but I've read like a pretty good amount of them now. I mean, I've read them, been reading them for like the last 2 or 3 years, pretty consistently. Um, I think those have resulted in a mindset shift. And even though it's not related to like music, I think they are affecting my mindset on music. I think employing more like self belief and all these things. I can't think of any like specific topic, but like I've read like books like Atomic Habits. Matt, you and I have both read that. Um, I've read. Ooh, I can pull my list up here. I've read the 4 Hour Work Week. That's more about like kind of breaking out of the rat race and becoming self-employed. Um, I've read um, what else have I read? I'm currently reading. Have you heard of Rich Dad Poor Dad, Matt?
No.
It's like a finance book. I'm reading that right now, and that's really interesting. That's like money mindset. Um, I just think I can attribute like a good chunk of um my mindset shift to reading those books, being surrounded by those ideas, and and a lot of it. I mean, I think self improvement seems kind of woo wooey to people. Like it's just this like cliche, cheesy woo woo crap. And I mean, when you read them, you start to think about it, and they give you like different perspectives, and you start to realize like um it's not just a bunch of crap, right? Like it's not just a bunch of
Mhm.
woo woo new age whatever. It's there's some real like merit to these ideas and trying these things. So I don't know. Were you gonna say something?
That's well, I just think that's kind of interesting because for me, I might be one of those people, I guess. I did like Atomic Habits, excuse me. Um, but I tend to find that at least with the books like that I've read, they sort of tend to have a certain sameness to them.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, I just lose interest. I just can't like to me, it's too much of a lot of those cliches. And we've talked about this before, but a lot of times, um, things are cliche because they're true. I think if anything, for me, it's a good reminder, and I think that it probably helps, even though you may know those things and have heard those things before. Hearing them consistently probably makes a difference.
Yes. Yes.
At least that's how I view it. Is like just keeping your head in the right place. And I think that would, for me, if I was reading a lot of those books, that would be where the value would be. Um, of course there's value in those books, but I just, to me, a lot of them are just sort of regurgitating this sort of same information, or unique, their own unique spin on sort of the same information.
Mm-hmm.
And they may give you a different perspective of something that you didn't have before, but to me, a lot of them at their core are sort of talking about the same thing. Um,
Yeah,
I think it's just easy to get complacent, and I think that I think they're good reminders.
yeah. I mean, there is a lot of sameness in like different books. I mean, many of these books might have been influenced by some of the other books that you read.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, but I've found that just about every book that I've read has something has many things unique about it. And that has come through. Sometimes there truly has there a lot of times there's at least a few things that are new that I learn. Even if it's like the same type of topic or a similar topic. I also find the different perspective, like what you're saying, the reminder. Because I don't know why, but we tend to read something and it goes to the back of our brain and we forget about it. Like it's still there, but like we don't think about it. And sometimes it takes reading it or hearing it in a podcast to be like, oh yeah, that is a good idea. I should do that. Um, so I think it helps there, but I think the extra perspective is also helpful. And I think sometimes when you read a book, you read the same topic or even the same book, you come to it with a fresh perspective in a way, because you are in a different place than you were when you read it last time. Um, and so I
Yeah.
think even then you can get like sometimes I've reread stuff and I'll look back and I think about it. I'm like, I didn't catch that the first time, or I didn't think about it that way the first time I read it. Um, so I don't know. I found that has been I wouldn't say like a key thing, but it's definitely been like helpful in shifting my mindset. And honestly, mindset is huge when it comes to like going after like a big goal. Like if your mindset's not there, you're going to struggle a lot, you know? But if your mindset is there, like you're in a good place, like you believe in yourself, you have positive thinking, you stay focused on what really matters, those types of things, like I think I think those can make a big difference in your progress. They have
Hmm.
at least have for me, you know. Matt's
Yeah.
like, I hate self-help books. They suck.
I don't know. I definitely don't have anything against them. I just, maybe I just get bored with them. Um,
You have that millennial attention span.
yeah, I guess so.
All right. Well, I mean, I could keep going in, but like, I mean, I think a lot has changed. Um, Obviously, a lot has changed. I have a website now. Um, we have this podcast now. I've got more experience with like graphic design, and I've gotten more into like designing visuals for social media. So like, I started using Apple Motion, which is like a Apple product that kind of pairs with Final Cut Pro, but lets you like make animations.
Hmm.
Um, and so like I'm always like taking it another step further every time I'm working and I don't know, I'm experimenting with a lot, I think. And I guess for whoever's listening to this, hopefully it's not my boss. It won't be my boss. But like I've saved up money to quit. Like I have enough money in my
Hmm.
bank account that if I want to, I've got enough cushion to quit. So that's definitely also another different thing um than when I started.
Yeah,
But
all of those. I mean, that's a big deal for sure. But
I think I
mm,
mean that's the gist of it. Got to keep going.
if you were to go, if you were to go back a couple years ago versus now,
Yes.
what would you have done differently, knowing what you know now?
I would have like 2 years ago, I
Well,
would have
just
started
whenever you got serious about Blue Haven music.
when I got serious, I would have started saving money right then and there because I'd have more money now for Blue Haven Music. B, I would have gotten a music production coach sooner. It's been well worth the money. And I guess C is I would have started like trying to post more on social media and come up with a social media plan. Because by now I might have a good amount more followers. So maybe those three things. At least right now, that's kind of what my focuses are on. So I think that's what I would maybe do. So that's it for me. I think it's time to talk about you.
All right, you heard it here, guys. That's it for episode 30.
What?
Until next time, stay tuned.
No, this is not over. All right. So like wherever you want to compare where you're at now to where you were before, like how would you say things are different now than they were before? And maybe even also say what's kind of, if there is anything that's similar, maybe share that too.
Well, I guess first off, in terms of what's different, I mean, I think this is true for both of us. I think our skill has improved pretty tremendously for both of us in our own respective crafts over the last couple of years. I feel a lot more confident in my skills as a luthier and just a woodworker in general. So that has changed. I feel like I'm a pretty skilled woodworker and yeah, anyway. So that's different. My skill level has increased.
That would be the hope. Better than it decreasing.
Yeah, that'd be bad if nothing had changed there.
Or if it decreased. You actually got worse with time.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see, I'm trying to think what else. I mean, I've developed my brand more. I do need to work on. I never created a website, but I did create an Instagram for Rector Guitars. And not that I have millions of followers or anything like that, but I have like 800 followers, I think, right now.
Just say 100. Just say 100.
So, well, I mean, in social media terms, 800 is nothing, but like, I'm trying to grow that, and I created the logo for my brand. Actually, I had a friend who's a graphic designer did that for me. Shout out to Kelsey Fitzpatrick. Yeah, if you're in need of graphic design services, I can help you get in touch. Anyway, that's been something that's improved. I have a clearer picture of what I want my brand to be.
That's important.
And what I want my instruments to be. I knew that lutherie was something I wanted to pursue, but I didn't necessarily know what that looked like.
Sure.
And I have a clear picture of that. I obviously did my worked at the music shop where I did repairs. Got a lot of skill from that.
That was good for you, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read, I think, one and probably a half of a self-help book. I'm not into those in the same way that you are.
Missing out, man. You're missing out.
I do think that information is valuable, but
No, it's
it's hard for me to
you think
say
it's garbage.
to.
I think it's woo woo.
It's hard for me to be super into those. It's just not my thing. But I do think that the lessons taught in them are usually important.
I'm gonna write a self-help book and then make you read it. It's gonna be called Blue Haven Music's Philosophy on Life. The philosophy of Blue Haven music. And the front page is going to be a chair. And the first thing in the book is going to be, what is a chair?
Never forget that one, huh?
Never.
Anyway, back to the topic. I don't know that my mindset has changed that much. I would say that if anything, have become more open-minded and also less afraid of failure. You just got to do things sometimes. That has been the biggest mindset shift for me. Is spending less time thinking about doing things and more time just actually doing them. And I think part of the reason I don't read a lot of those books is, for me, I'd rather just be woodworking. I'd rather just be in the shop,
Got you.
I do think that the way I prioritize things has changed in terms of how I prioritize my time. And part of that too was from inexperience. I guess the question I asked you, if I were to do things over again, I feel like I'm finally getting to a place where I have like a optimal, like I'm looking forward to moving to somewhere new and having more of a dedicated space for guitar building and lutherie and woodworking. Because I feel like I'm finally getting to a point where I have a really solid understanding of the skills needed and the tools needed. And for the first couple years, I don't think I necessarily did. And to be honest, I wasted a lot of time and a lot of money, like messing around with tools, like fiddling around with tools and jigs and trying to research what I needed and what was the best tool. And
hand planes.
I think that's sort of, I have more hand planes than I would care to admit. I think that's one of the downsides of how much information we have access to today, is that I think people spend way too much time analyzing like how to do something or what to buy. When a lot of times you could find a solution that would work and work well, and you might be better off just spending that time developing that skill, like rather than figuring out like what to do.
Yeah.
Like for example, if you're a woodworker and you want to learn to cut dovetail joints by hand, there are lots of ways you can go about doing that. Some people prefer to cut the pins first. Some people prefer to cut the tails first. You can do it either way. And there are renowned craftsmen throughout the world who do it, different ways, who both, they both produce incredible work. Like, so there's not necessarily a right way to do it. But if you spend time like going back and forth between different methods, and with like this pursuit of trying to like figure out what's best, what you actually end up doing is you just end up being mediocre in 10 different ways, than being like really skilled in one way that works.
Right.
And so that has been a mindset set shift for me, is like, you really just need to pick something and then develop your skill with it. Um, and that's not to say that I believe that experimentation is bad or that trying different things is bad. It's just that, frankly, if you have one way that does what you need it to well, that constant pursuit of something else is just, it's a waste. It's a waste of time and energy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a big mindset shift for me. I do still. Oh, I guess one thing that's different is now that I'm involved in this makerspace, I have access to more power tools now. I still build my instruments primarily by hand. There's not really a lot of machine work in any of the instruments that I build. Um, it's mostly done with hand tools. Um, but the having access to that shop has been a good thing for me. Um, That's something different. And I do think, I guess the last thing that I can just wanted to touch on is I do have more confidence now. Part of that is because my skill has improved, but also I think um, some of it is just validation from others. Like, having people who have bought instruments from me and were willing to pay money to have instruments built by me.
Right.
Part of it has been I recently was interviewed for a podcast called Guitar Garage Talk, hosted by Patrick Sanders, and here's a guy who is a professional luthier, repairing instruments full time, and recently launched this podcast, and he's not necessarily like a builder primarily. He's more of a repair guy, but he just found me on Instagram and thought what I was doing looked interesting, which really kind of floored me, to be honest. Because there are tons of luthiers out there who are doing incredible stuff. And some of the other people he's interviewed are like people that have pretty big followings. So like
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty floored that someone wanted to take an interest in my work, and I guess that's given me a little bit of hope that, hey, I'm doing something right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool to get that attention. And I mean, again, you never know what kinds of connections will lead to other things.
Hmm.
I think like that confidence. I was listening to another podcast the other day, and it talked about like it talked about like the gist of like doing what your like what passion you're aligned with, like whatever you feel kind of naturally called to do, how like actually pursuing that can like change your life and like make you less like anxious, more confident, da 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 da. Um and I think like I don't know, I think it's really true. I think like at least for me, I think like when you just kind of naturally like are interested or passionate about something and you care about it, um, you might not have a lot of confidence around it yet, but when you start like basically like you don't, because when you're starting you don't have any evidence to prove that you can do it because you haven't produced anything. Like you have to prove to yourself that you can do it by actually just doing it even though you don't have evidence that you can. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And like um I found that as I have grown, like I've always wanted to do music. Like I don't know why, but I remember even like I remember wanting to play piano when I was like I don't know, pretty young, and like I wrote my first song in 8th grade and I didn't have to, I just wanted to. And Um, like I've always kind of feel kind of naturally drawn to that, and I feel like as I have pursued it, my confidence, like not just around music, but like my personal confidence has also gone up. Um,
Mm. because
because when I reach a new level of success with that thing I care about so much, it just makes me feel good about myself and where I'm going, you know? Um,
I think I think that you are more sure of yourself now than you were, like, as just as a person in general, than a couple years ago.
yeah,
Um,
I definitely am.
I feel like you were. I don't know if timid's the right word, but like, um, there's a healthy dose of skepticism of yourself when it came to whether or not you could do this.
Yep. A lot of
I,
self-doubt.
yeah, I would say that there was, and I feel like um there's definitely less of that now, and it's actually really kind of like what you said. I don't know that it's. I think you have more of the mindset of like I am going to do this. Like this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just a matter of keep keeping working on it, and when it's going to happen. I guess.
Right. Right. Yeah, I'm so confident now. I'm egotistical. I'm kind of a douche now too. Kind of look down on
Well,
other people.
oh my gosh.
All
It is
you.
important though, and I think that I think we've talked about this before, but like it's important that you believe in yourself, because if you don't, why would anyone else? Like
Right.
if you're not confident in yourself as a music producer, like why would a client work with you? Like so,
That's why it's always
I
funny
think
to
that
hear
makes
people
a difference.
that like it's kind of funny to like hear people that are like self-deprecating like when they or is that the word? Like they just like look down on themselves but they're like, "Yeah, I really like doing this, but I suck." Like and like I don't know, it's just it's that mindset. Like I won't say who, but like I'll play like this is something completely unrelated, but like I'll play like board games with some people and like there's a couple people that I know that are like they don't win a lot and they're like, "Oh, I'm never going to win." And I'm like, "Well," and I always say like and I say it jokingly, but I also say it somewhat seriously. I'm like, "Not with that attitude." Like cuz like for real, like if you go into the game expecting you're going to lose, you're probably going to lose. Like cuz you just I don't know, you just you take different actions when you play to when you don't play to win, you know? Um, but I don't know. I think like it is important to develop that um some semblance of like certainty. Like at the very least say like I don't know if I'm capable of doing it, but I'm gonna do it. Like, like or I don't know how much it's gonna take, but I'm gonna do it. Um Having some semblance of certainty I think is kind of important. Um Because otherwise, if you have that self doubt, you're probably gonna have a harder time taking like the leap of faith that you need to take to actually do the thing that you want to do.
Hmm.
You have a lot harder of a time. You gotta believe in yourself, man. Gotta do it. It sounds so cheesy, but like I'm being serious. Like
I know you are.
like it's just
Sorry,
it
I'm
sounds like
still.
super cheesy, but
Yeah, I apologize if I'm maybe not as animated as usual. My mobility is somewhat limited. I'm still kind of sore. Well, I'm pretty sore still from my surgery, so like I'm just less animated than I normally would be. Um yeah, it's kind of cheesy, but I mean,
it's cheesy because
it's
it's
the whole
true.
Cheesy because it's true. Yeah.
Well, do you have anything else you want to share about wisdom you've learned, or lessons you've learned, or maybe even just like, this is what a person who's getting into Luthery right now, this is what you should do to start. Not, I mean, I feel like we've kind of done that before, but just anything around that, like comparing
Yeah.
yourself to as a beginner to where you are now.
So, I mean, I obviously speak as someone who has a preference for using hand tools. Um, for new, like if I were to give someone advice who is starting down that path, who wants to try to become a luthier, specifically a builder, I speak from experience as someone who has a focus on hand tool work. So that's what I'm going to speak to. But I have a few things that I would, I guess, recommend. Um, I guess if I want to be poetic about it, excuse me.
You're gonna burp. Oh,
Yeah,
that's going on the social media. I guess if I were being poetic about it.
Yeah, I had to rush to get dinner because I had a flat tire earlier today. Anyway, if I was going to be poetic about it, I would say that you should lay down your thoughts and awaken your hands, and spend more time doing and less time thinking about doing. That's what I kind of touched on before. Seek out help from other people, and who can help like guide you so that you don't spend too much time trying to figure something out. They can kind of give you an idea of where to go. I would say, unless you have a giant space available to you, or like maybe you're already a woodworker that wants to pursue luthery. If you're not in that situation, I would say keep your tools minimal, keep your setup minimal, spend more time developing your skills. I guess, again, like here's another sort of tidbit of advice. Like you can't buy your way into good craftsmanship. So it's a mistake to think that you people always, that's what they think though, is like, and that's what the tool companies that want to sell you every tool in the catalog like want you to think, is that you have to have every possible specialized tool, and you don't. There's a lot of incredible work that you can do with a really basic kit of tools. So, don't make the mistake of thinking you need every tool out there, and buy good enough quality. Doesn't have to be the most expensive thing out there, but also don't buy like the cheapest thing either. And buy something for life. It's cheaper to buy one block plane, for example, that will serve all of your needs for your lifetime, than to cheap out and then not be happy with something and then buy another one later. Buy something that's good enough quality to serve your needs. And yeah. I'm trying to think what else.
I'm gonna put a little I'm gonna make an Instagram like reel series where it's like words of wisdom from Matt or something like that, and it's gonna have like it's gonna have
me burping and then going and then thinking.
Yeah. Yes, actually. Yes. That'd be funny.
I don't know. I feel like I have other ones too. Yeah, I would say develop as much skill as you can and don't outsource the skill to um machines or jigs or tools. Not that those things are bad, but I think when you're initially getting started, you really should develop a lot of those baseline skills that are foundational to doing good quality work. Um, yeah, buy a cheap guitar, like a beater guitar used from I don't know, from somewhere, or like a lot of people, if you ask around, like a lot of your friends might have a guitar from when they were a kid that was inexpensive that they're never going to play ever again and that they just want to get rid of. Thank you, Ethan Morissette. Um, yeah,
It
so
was effed. It was effed beyond belief. It was all cracked and dried out, and Matt took it, and I don't know what he did with it. Lit it
I
on
smashed
fire.
it.
It lit it on fire.
Yeah, I I smashed it. That guitar wasn't worth saving.
You probably had to burn the case to get rid of the smell, though.
You know, it wasn't that bad. Not like I remember it. I feel like it's mellowed over the years.
It's hard to believe.
For those who, yeah, the listeners who, Ethan had this guitar that the case in particular smelled like sewage.
It smelled like something died in it.
It smelled terrible.
It was really bad.
The guitar itself didn't smell that way, just the case. So, but it was a guitar that Ethan shipped to me that was damaged, sort of beyond repair, or at least beyond what the cost to repair would be worth on an instrument like that. Just purely from a financial standpoint, Ethan didn't have plans to fix it up, so he shipped it to me, which was very generous of him. And it's been something that I can use to try things out on, and practice repairs. So find instruments like that and work on those. I will say that for those who are interested in becoming a builder, a maker of musical instruments, I do think it's really valuable to get a really good handle on repair first. And a lot of people do it the other way around. A lot of people set out to be makers, to be guitar builders, and then discover there's probably more stable money in repair. Because there's always going to be a need for instrument repairs. And it can be a hard sell when early on, before your name is known, before you have a lot of examples of quality work that you can show people, anything like that. It can be a really hard sell to, get someone to put down their hard-earned cash on one of the instruments that you've made, or, a custom commission. And so a lot of people, I think, set out to be a builder, but find that there's more money in repair and then end up in that world. But I think a lot more people should start out in repair and then move from that to building if they want to do that, because repair gives you a totally different perspective. They're related, but they're really not the same thing. They're a different skill set, in my opinion. Some of the skills, there's crossover, but you really need to know how to do fretwork really well, for example. And it also gives you a really good idea of the things that you want to see in an instrument. So you might start to see a pattern on certain instruments that you work on and notice, okay, well, this construction method tends to, have an issue with this. And, this is the pro and con of building a guitar this way. And that's going to give you a better idea of what you want to see in your own instruments, and the things that you want to avoid. Um, and the other thing too is, I mean, I've seen some brand new instruments that were really beautiful, but just the fretwork might not have been that great. And I think a lot of that comes from repair. You'll get really good at that type of thing from doing repair work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you need to be able to service your instruments. I mean, imagine someone pays a significant amount of money for a custom made instrument. They wait, 6 months or however long it takes for you to build that instrument. And maybe they don't take the best care of it, or something happens, and you know life happens. Maybe the develops a crack somewhere, so they bring it back to you to repair, and you just don't know how to repair it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be able to service your own instruments, in my opinion. um when you're a small builder, and you're developing sort of relationships with your clients and musicians and things like that, I think it's really valuable to be able to service your own instruments, so that those musicians will come back to you to work on the guitars that you've built.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Start with repair.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's plenty of people who've done it both ways. It's just that's what makes sense to me, and I think that, in my opinion, the people who do it that way have a more well-rounded view of lutherie.
Sure. That makes sense. Cool. Anything else, Matthew?
Yeah, sorry, I kind of went off into a bunch of different things.
That's okay.
No, what advice would you have?
For somebody starting
To, s-
out,
yeah, since I shared that about my advice for someone who's starting out in lutherie, what would your advice be for someone who's starting out in music production?
I'm pretty sure we had like some kind of talked about this recently. I I would recommend uh getting started, like hasn't written anything. If you know like piano but you haven't written anything, I'm just going to go with that, assuming you know something about music. Um I would get a digital audio workstation and I would start playing around with it and just experiment and have fun. Because if that's fun for you, you'll learn the ropes about like a digital audio workstation pretty quickly. On top of that, I would recommend finding some kind of formal class online. Probably just something like an electronic, like a video series or something that you could pay for and watch, because that'll give you the basics. And then after that, I think if you're serious about it, I think getting a mentor would be a good idea for like mixing, having a one-on-one teacher. I think that like cuts the timeline down a lot more, to be a lot more short if you do it that way. Um, but yeah, you gotta have the hands on. You gotta do it. Kind of like what you said. You gotta do it, and that's the most fun part anyway. So, like, why wouldn't you? Um, Aside from that, it's just do your reps. Make a song, finish a song, release it, finish another song, release it, finish another song, release it. Stop caring about perfection. Start caring more about progress
Hmm.
and actually producing something, not just coming up with a bunch of unfinished projects.
Yeah, doing things consistently is so much more valuable than um, intensity.
Yep. I agree. I heard it. One thing I heard, I think I might have brought it. I I posted on my social media, but like I read a book, "Make Your Own Rules" by Andrew Huang. He's like a YouTuber, and he said, "Focus not on quality, but quantity, and you'll get quality through quantity." You know, so it's you're gonna get that quality just by doing it over and over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, in the Luthery world, like if you're doing setup work or something, like obviously quality is important, but like you got to get your reps in. Like you have to practice somehow. Like
Right. Like if your goal is to like lift 200 pounds, like you're not going to just like be able to like prepare really hard for lifting 200 pounds one time and be able to do it. Like you got to put that exercise in to build up to that moment.
mhm.
Um, no amount of waiting is ever going to help you lift that 200 pounds. Only doing the exercise and putting the work in and to build up to that is going to help you lift that. Workout analogy. Yeah.
All right. Do we have anything else for episode 30?
The big 3-0. I don't, because I'm tired.
You're cansado.
I'm a little tired. I'm a little sleepy. I'm gonna go sleep after this. But thank you for sticking with us to the big 3-0. Expect some crazy new stuff coming up for the next 30 episodes. Crazy. Won't be crazy.
All right. That is it for episode 30. Until next time, stay tuned.